I've got GPT-5 enabled and I want to see what we can do with it within the context of ShopBirdy AI design tool. The first thing I want to do is to see if it can fix a bug with one of the features that we have in ShopBirdy AI design tool, which is the custom scene generator. So far, none of the models that I've used to date have been able to solve this tricky issue, so I'd be really excited if GPT-5 can figure it out. Basically, what happens is when you come to the custom scene generator, you can describe any scene in plain language. And what the model will do is craft a richly detailed prompt. So it'll take your prompt and massively enhance it. And then what it'll do is you'll get a layout preview, as you can see in this right sidebar here, which would actually show you where all the elements would be placed within the scene. The bug, though, is that this only works for the first aspect ratio, the 4:3 ratio. It wouldn't work in the portrait mode or in the 1:1 ratio. And I've gone through many iterations of this, and the models previously have all said it should be working, but ultimately it hasn't. So I want to see if GPT can actually resolve this. That'll make it so that you can create really nice designs for like Instagram, for example, or any of the vertical format medias, or even like social media in general. Now, you can still definitely use the 4:3 ratio, but if you wanted the portrait mode, that would be really helpful, and I can't get it to work. I can get it to work in these settings, right? You can in the pre-built, but in the custom generation, it doesn't really work that well. So I need to see if I can actually ask GPT-5 if it can fix the custom scene template across all the aspect ratios. So let me jump over here, and I want to share with it basically the background of what the issue I'm facing is, and to see if it can fix it. So I'm now connected to GPT-5 here, and it's running within the code, the ShopBirdy code base. This is for the front-end application. So when you come to ShopBirdy and you see this custom scene generator, you can just describe any scene you want, and you get this layout preview. But it doesn't have the other aspect ratios fixed, only on the custom scene generator. It's very specific to that. It works for the other scenes if you select the aspect ratio in advance, or you just do it one by one. But to generate 3 different aspect ratios, 3 scenes, that's kind of tricky. And so far, it hasn't been able to do that. None of the models have been able to help me resolve this. Okay, so GPT-5 has given me a root cause summary. And it's telling me what's actually happening, and then it's giving me some recommended fixes. I can choose A or B. A is to treat a special value and modify the schema, or I could have these as separate calls. So the root issue has something to do with essentially trying to create all 3 at once through one single prompt versus using that same prompt and then iterating through 3 different generations. The challenge with 3 different generations, though, is that they may not be so consistent. If they were all coming from the same generation, then maybe they'd look more consistent. But if that's not really an issue, if that's more of just creativity, then I guess we could generate it 3 times, although that does sound like it's doing a lot of extra work. So ideally, I think, is we would get it in the one call. And I think that's also what it says. The recommended fixes here is preferred. I think I would go with option A. It says, let me know, implement option A, option B, or both. I can apply the code changes. The nice thing one of the things I really like about GPT-5 is that it really solves the needle in the haystack issue. You can point it at a very vast code base, and you can ask it to find something there. And it has trained well enough to know how to search, how to navigate, and find what it is that you're looking for. This is a classic challenge with new developers joining a company, joining a project for the first time. They get access to the code repository, and then they have to try to figure out how everything works. And that is such an immense job in and of itself. With these new agents, and I do call GPT-5 truly an agent, it's the first model that really feels like an agent. It's very proactive. It understands how to find those things, and then it always does a great job of suggesting next steps, giving you some trade-offs. It feels like it really wants to work, and it's built to use tools, and it does a great job of keeping track of its progress. So I think GPT-5 is definitely going to be my daily driver, and I think for most technology companies, they're going to really leverage GPT-5. I mean, let's not count out Google and Anthropic and the others, but as of right now, it is, I think, the best model right now, specifically for code. So let's say I'll tell it your plan is solid. Let's proceed with option A. And now, basically, this is what it's like. You task it with something, it presents its plan, and then it basically just waits for you to give it the green light. Once you do that, it goes off and it starts working. And it doesn't stop necessarily until it's finished or it's in a state where it needs your go ahead, or it needs your permission to continue its mission, essentially. And it does a great job of retrying if it has an issue, if it encounters a problem, or if it gets stuck. And I think it's been trained really well to figure out how to recover from these kinds of issues and problems. So here it's going through the code. It's keeping certain lines, most of the lines, unchanged. It's trying to navigate to where it needs to insert a change, maybe make an edit or add some new code. In this case, it's added this new sort of constant called all, or this new sort of data type. This is essentially a TypeScript, and it's added this new property to the aspect ratio. So now instead of aspect ratio only having the choice of one of these three, it now has an option to select all of these. That was just the first change. It also moved the position of the prompt, but it kept it all essentially mostly intact, and then it added a few other steps to the prompt to harden it, and it incorporated both the new property of all as well as having a default if all is not selected. And then it added more details into what the aspect ratio of all, what that actually means. And it looks good. So when it made those changes, there were no errors, which is really incredible. We would frequently have issues where it would make the changes, but it would introduce a new error that we had to fix. GPT-5 is getting really good at, first of all, not having any errors. And when it does have an error, it can recover that really quickly. So I really like GPT-5 right now. So it says, and it's very proactive. It always gives you some optional next steps. And they're normally really good. Like it thinks about like performance, security, even user-friendly things, developer-friendly things. And just in general, like where you might want to go with this and take it even further. So I would say, yes, proceed with those additional changes. And this is basically how it's like to work with these new top-level AIs. You're managing, you're overseeing, you're directing it, you're guiding it, you're giving it your input in terms of what you want, and it's going off and it's actually getting it done. And it's great to start a new project with, but I also find these really valuable when you can introduce it to a project you've already been building, maybe with the previous models. And that's precisely what I've been doing, is that I was taking essentially the models as far as they could go until basically hitting a wall. In this case, it was this feature that I wanted to implement. I couldn't implement it the way I wanted to, and I had tried asking all the different models if we could resolve this, and none of them could actually solve the problem. And it's a very kind of specific problem or issue, but it was within a huge context of a tremendously large code base that has been growing as I've been adding new features to this. So when you introduce a ton of code and then you want to find specific pieces within that code, that's what they call kind of a needle in a haystack challenge. It's like, how do you get it to sift through all this code and find what you're looking for without filling its entire context window with other, unimportant information or non-relevant or that's not helpful to context, right? So it's made another change, and then it's done so with no errors, no problems detected, and it's still giving me more additional things that I could want to do if I'd like to, right? These are pending optional improvements. Tell me if you want them. Valid coercion for string percentages, rich logging of rejected rectangles, retry logic if element counts below thresholds. These are probably overly engineered at this point. I don't think we need all of those, although the idea of drawing a rectangle that falls outside of the dimensions of the layout, that does sound useful, but I want to test these first. So I'll just have it hang out here, and the app should be built. So I should essentially just try it again. Now this is where you have to do live testing. So although there were no bugs in the code per se, that's more of that passes sort of these technical tests. You still want to do user testing, functional testing, and that's where we come in with this. So I would say, like, I'll pick one of these quick suggestions and send that through. Modern Studio with soft lighting. And then this is where the user acceptance testing has to happen, was where we actually use the product and put it through its paces and experience it from a user experience standpoint, and then see if it actually does the things that we want it to do. All right. Beautiful. It worked. It fixed it. That shows you right there the power of GPT-5, a previously unsolvable problem that the other models couldn't resolve. And I tried them all. GPT-5 was able to absolutely resolve that issue, making changes to 2 files, significant changes. But in both cases, they introduced no new bugs and had additional enhancements and other things that could make it even better. That is extremely awesome. Very impressive. Great job, team. All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and use this. Okay. Actually, let's be more thoughtful. Let's try to put it through. So those are some basic examples. You know what? Let's add some more examples. That should be something that it could easily do, right? So we have this section called Quick Suggestions. These are some hard-coded example prompts, but we could be more, what's the word? Creative there, right? So we'll find the quick prompts, and we'll ask it to come up with a few different. So we'll add it here, inline chat. We'll select the model again. Again, we have tons of models, and in some cases, it may not make sense to use your tokens, your premium tokens, on simple things like quick prompts. So I would actually ask the base model 4.1 here, or even 4.0, to do this task. Then I don't have to use my quota on just coming up with a bunch of simple prompts. So let's do that now. Let's expand this list of quick prompts to list more templates and example scenes for marketing of products. Yeah, that's just a very general thing, but we don't need to think too hard on this kind of task. We don't need to use all of our top models tokens capabilities. This is a quick task. It doesn't involve editing code per se. It's really just editing these strings of text, and then we can test that. So I'll save that change, and now I have a whole bunch of quick suggestions. Now the issue here is, though, this is not a very user-friendly experience because we've now dominated the canvas here with these quick suggestions. So what we would like to do is probably have these be in a more condensed manner and be able to cycle through them. So I'll ask GPT-5 to do. So this is where model switching and selecting the right model for the different tasks makes a lot of sense, because there's some things where you want to use a really low-cost model to just do this kind of workhorse stuff, and then there's other cases where there's more complexity to it. You may not be changing tons of lines of code, but you have to consider multiple files in your mind at the same time, and you have to think through the implications and the ramifications of making changes and ensuring that you don't introduce new problems when you are trying to add a new feature, for example. So this is where I would use the GPT-5 model. Is I would explain that I've expanded the list of quick prompts, but this has caused the UI to change, and now all the prompts, all the clickable prompts are dominating the available screen real estate. I suggest we figure out how to make that more compact with the ability to cycle through sets at a time. Please make these UI changes, user interface changes. And then I'll use the agent mode. So the agent mode is going to be able to iterate through multiple projects or multiple scripts in my project, multiple files. And you see here it's working, and that's what it's doing in the background. It's doing searches. It's looking to see what are the impacts, what are the references, which other files rely on this. Should I make this a quick fix, or should I be more comprehensive? Does it make sense to actually split out some of these concerns and into different dedicated components, right? Because as you can see, this single script is getting enormously long, and at some point, you don't really want too many scripts more than about 1,000 lines per per file because of, again, context window issues. So there it made a comprehensive change that did introduce a breaking change to the page, but that was expected in some sense, and the model is now doing a second pass. It needed to do the first thing first, and that is going to temporarily break the functionality or the page, but ideally it should quickly recover, and it's an ongoing task, so it wasn't actually finished, and hopefully now it's done, and now it looks like it's fully fixed. It took two passes at it. It needed to do the first thing first, and then once it had the new structure in place, it could remove the old structure and then ensure all the references lined up. So we will be able to test that, and yeah, wonderful, wonderful. I can now have a whole bunch of new suggestions, and perfect, great. So we've got a bunch of different suggestions for scenes that we could test. Now that we've added these new scenes, we want to be able to see if they would work across multiple aspect ratios. So we're going to test both the fix that we did initially, as well as the ability for the aspect ratios and the layouts to handle more different custom scenes. So this prompt is just a saved prompt. It doesn't actually have the detailed scene built yet. That's being generated on the fly. All right, that looks great. So this is a fashion boutique with mannequins, racks, and spotlights. And you can see here, there'd be a mannequin here, there would be a spotlight glow, the main product would be there would be a floor lamp here, and that gives it like a lot of rich details. And I find this to be really useful because you get much better results versus if you were to just use this prompt and ask it to generate an image. It could definitely do that, but it would do so in a very kind of unpredictable way. Oftentimes it would do a great job, but you might want to, before you do the generation, you might want to actually have a preview of what it would look like. And then maybe you would get an idea and say, let's change it this way or let's modify it. But at least here you're getting a sense of what it would look like prior to you generating it by rendering this layout here. And then you could see it in this as well. Okay, so we've got that. I don't know if I have any upload images. Let me try, let's see if we can use our MCP server to, let's see, do we have the MCP tools on this one? Maybe not. Let's jump over to, well, let me try connecting this one to the MCP. Let's see if that would work first. Looks like it is. Yes, it does. Okay. Can you use your ShopBirdy MCP tool to generate a simple image of a product? The product should be something you would buy in a store. We need an isolated image of the product itself with an empty or plain background. You can use medium quality, and it can be any product. Now we're going to try to see if GPT-5 can interface with the ShopBirdy MCP server. I've not yet tried this. So I've done it with Claude, I've done it with GPT-4. We've been able to work with Gemini and our MCP server. But this is actually going to be the first time I'm actually using GPT-5 to interact with the ShopBirdy MCP server. Now, as you can see here, it's summarizing the conversation history. So within the conversation history is not just what you're typing, your questions or your queries, and not only what is returned from the model in this chat window. It also includes all of the code changes and all of the files that it's read. So that actually does consume a tremendous amount of the context window, especially when it's reading a ton of code. So it says it doesn't have the tools listed here. Check again. Please check again. I do see this. And I have to make sure that those, oh, the ShopBirdy tools are not yet, only some of them are selected. Okay. Okay. I see. Okay, so I have to actually enable the actual tool I want it to use. So let me go ahead and select Create Image GPT or this one, and then we have, yeah, let's try that first. try using create image GPT. I'm going to actually edit this one since we don't need the response here. Try using create image GPT tool. I think that's the name of it. I just... Okay. Right. So I think so. All right. I found it. I've ran into a challenge with the MCP platform itself. You can only have 128 tools. That's the maximum amount of tools. And then when you send all your requests in your Copilot, it actually includes all the tools in almost all the chats. So I have like more than 40 tools here, and then I'm running on a production and in a developer environment. So I've been sending so many different tools through MCP that it was actually erroring out. I was sending too many tools. So I want to make sure that I can select these and click OK on that, and make sure again that it's active, and then try here. Try one more time. If this doesn't work, then I will, yeah, I have not yet made this new, I haven't yet tried using the MCP server yet with GPT-5, and I've been making a bunch of changes to the MCP server with GPT-5, so it should work, but that's no worries. So essentially, we'll just describe it using here, since we can just describe it. So I'll just describe what product we want. I don't have an idea for a product. I'll come here. Let's actually look at what the scene is. We are doing mannequins here. Okay, so in that case, let's try something else. I want to look for a different scene. So we have a tech workspace with sleek desk laptop and cool blue lighting. We'll try this one. And the product here will be, let's say, a smartphone charging stand. All right, so that should be a common product that you would see. Or let's say it's like a smartphone charging in a stand, in a charging stand. So we'll include the smartphone also along with the charging thing. So let's generate that scene now. All right, cool. We can preview this, and it looks like this. We'll use the portrait mode here, and then the prompt will be the product here. A smartphone with a charging stand. Okay, and then if we had the image of the product of this smartphone with the charging stand, we could add it here, and then it would be placed in the scene. Since we don't have that product, we can just generate the product using our custom template, and we're going to go ahead and try that now. I'm going to try that now, and while that's running, you'll notice that this is an image of I've been trying using characters, so using actual pictures of people, and to see if we can actually add makeup or fashion elements to them for people that want to try on makeup or different clothes. This is one way you can do that, and it actually works pretty well. So that's what that is. And then I have a bunch of other images that are in my gallery. The performance of the gallery is a little bit slow, so I've been working on building a new gallery using the MCP server, which should be much, much faster. And that looks like this. So you can actually generate your images. So this is for a video game concept. So you can use image generation to actually generate screenshots of a video game that you want to play. And then you can use AI to actually create the game for you. And eventually you could have a completely generative game where it's essentially being built just for you in real time as you go. And previously we had to build all the content of the game in advance, and then you would launch the game and then people would play it. So the timeline to develop these games would take years and years. But you know, if people just were to start with like the first level, for example, and then only unlock the second level once they pass the first level, and then generate the second level based on the gameplay of that user in the first level, that could be really exciting. And then you could have effectively fully generated, customized games for every player, which I think would be really cool. But this is just a concept of how you could use ShopBirdy MCP image generation service to effectively describe a game concept, a concept for a video game that you want to play, and then it would generate all of the images of the concept art, and then the developers of the game could use this as their reference and actually develop that game for you. Right, so then we were going to try this. Okay, so here's the render. If we recall, that looks cool, right? That looks pretty cool. We said it would be a modern workspace with a laptop on a desk with a lamp, and then we described a smartphone on a charging base or case or a charging station, and that's what the ShopBirdy came up with. I think that's pretty cool. It was all completely generative. None of this existed beforehand, right? We created the scene using our prompt, and then we could see the output, and we can overlay that to see, okay, we've got an overhead blue accent light. Check, we see that. We have the main product laptop centered mid upper. We've got the main product and which is the charging station, and here's the laptop. We also said there would be a desk lamp stacked lower left. In this case, it's upper left, but that's fine because compositionally that makes sense. The notebook prop upper right. In this case, the prop is like a notebook or maybe a plant. And there's a desk surface spanning bottom and a smartphone foreground center. And it's overall a tech workspace with sleek desk laptop include cool blue lighting. So this was our initial prompt, and then it created these layout elements, which I think are really cool. And then it generated the image, which is really awesome, I think. So that's super cool. Now, where we want to take this is actually be able to allow you to navigate these layouts, these canvases, possibly even in 3D, or let you drag and place these objects around if you want to reposition something. I think that would be really, really useful, especially if you're creative and you want to really define the layout. But if you don't have much, creative design sense, or at least you don't think you do, this basically gives you a superpower, and all this, the AIs are handling most of the hard work, coming up with all of this complex prompting and then all the code to display it, and that gives you a lot of confidence that you're now working with something that is now augmenting your capabilities far beyond what you might be able to do in an hour or in a day worth of work. So if I had to come up with this design completely from scratch using Photoshop, or if I had actually take a picture of this, that would require staging and all the different products and lighting, and that's a tremendous effort. But with this tool, you can just create this in like a minute or 2 minutes, right? So if you want to create like 30 images in an hour, you could do that. We have the batch generation as well, so you could actually just select hundreds of different backgrounds, all with this consistent smartphone and charging stand, and you could just generate it in all kinds of backgrounds. Or you could have the AI come up with realistic backgrounds or scenes for that object to be placed into and then rendered as a final output. But there's some really good detail on this. We actually have the option to have super high fidelity for enterprise customers, and you can upgrade to that using the Design Studio plan. And actually, there's going to be more details of the new pricing model, because once GPT-5 was released, they kind of deprecated some of the previous models. So that means that all developers are going to have to rewrite all their applications to use GPT-5 now, instead of what we previously used, which might have been 4.0 or 0.3 or 0.1 or 4.1 or 4.5. There were many different models, but now OpenAI is unifying around a single model, GPT-5, which is multimodal and has a lot of capabilities. They may still keep some of the older models around for a while as we do this this phase transition, but this is a new price point for this new API. So I'm going to have to update the pricing model here, and then I'm going to have to resolve the issue with the MCP server, because I would be really interested to see how GPT-5 can integrate with the new ShopBirdy MCP. But I've been working on the new gallery, because as you could see from the demo, this gallery loading from certain databases can sometimes be a little slow, and I want to speed that up. So I've got a new alternative to effectively give you your own custom gallery, hosting all your images and make it really fast and snappy. But that's coming soon. And then I have to also resolve a new limitation about MCP, in that you can only have a maximum of 128 tools per call, and we have more than 40 with ShopBirdy. So I may need to actually consolidate some of these tools to fit within that within that limitation, because very likely developers are going to have multiple MCPs integrated, and if ShopBirdy is active and you have more than 40 to 50 different tools, that might exhaust the limitations or the constraints. So I will be working on resolving that. But I'm, to recap, very impressed by GPT-5's ability to resolve a bug in my code that none of the other models were able to do, and I was able to also enhance the UI by by listing way more different prompt templates or example prompts and fix the UI for that so that it looks great. And I was able to verify that the new aspect ratio layout method actually does work and produces the output as expected. So end to end, it's great. It's really wonderful. So I want to give a ton of props to the OpenAI team. And now that we have GPT-5 working within ShopBirdy.ai, soon it will be working within ShopBirdy MCP, and then you'll have access to the most powerful models and best image generation models out there. And you'll be able to do that all within the very user-friendly ShopBirdy AI. Thank you guys very much for your time. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, this workshop that we had, and I look forward to seeing you again. Take care. Bye-bye.